Have you ever stopped to think about your life as something you're actively building, like an architect with a blueprint? That's what we're digging into today. This really powerful idea that every single choice we make, big or small, is actually part of that blueprint for who we're becoming.
Okay, so let's just jump right in with a big question. And I want you to really think about this for a second for your own life. It's not about the huge, dramatic decisions, it's something much quieter, a habit, something you do every day. What is it that's quietly shaping who you're turning into?
So here's the core metaphor we're going to play with. Imagine your life is this big, growing wall. It's always under construction. And every single time you make an intentional choice, like deciding to read a book instead of just scrolling, or choosing to be kind when it would be so much easier not to, each one of those is a single glowing brick you get to place in that wall. All right, so that brings us to our first big idea here, the architecture of choice. Let's really get into why these little bricks are way, way more powerful than they might seem on the surface. See, your identity isn't just forged in one big dramatic moment. Nah, it's built from like a million tiny conscious decisions. Think of it this way. Every small choice you make is basically a vote for the kind of person you want to be. And all those little votes, they add up. They're the small, steady steps that create the path to who you really are. But let's be real for a second. Laying those bricks isn't always easy, is it? It can actually be really, really hard sometimes. And that leads us right into this universal experience, the struggle of ambition. What happens when the building gets tough? Yeah, here's the reality check. We mess up. We get in our own way, we self-sabotage, and sometimes the sheer weight of our own big dreams just it feels like too much to carry. And what do? We often shrink them down, right? We make them smaller, more manageable, just to ease the pressure. And this right here, this is the battle, laid out plain and simple. Over on one side, you've got those huge dreams, the fantastic life, the person you truly want to be. But then on the other side, that's the tough part. That's the immediate pain of trying, the sting of failure, and that little voice whispering about how much easier it would be to just take the easy path. So all of that internal struggle, it brings us to this major fork in the road. And you'll see the choice we have to make isn't really about winning or losing. It's about choosing between two totally different ways to live. But here's the funny thing about those big dreams. Even the ones we try to push down, they're stubborn. They don't just disappear. They kind of hang around in the background, waiting. And every once in a while, they'll pop up and give you this little nudge, just to remind you of what you really want. It's like they're whispering, hey, pick up another one of those glowing bricks. Try again. Okay, so this is the choice, right here. The good life versus the fantastic life. And look, the good life, it's fine. It's safe, it's manageable. But the fantastic life, oof, that's the hard road. It's gonna hurt more often. You're gonna be reaching for things that feel totally out of reach. But, and this is the key, that's where something more lives. That's where the real growth is. So, if we do choose that harder path, what is that something more? What does it even look like? Well, that brings us to our final section where we're going to kind of flip the whole idea of greatness on its head. Let's start with a vocabulary word for the day. The word is eminently. It's simple. It just means to a high degree. But hang on to that word because it's the secret sauce to understanding what real, profound greatness is all about. It's not about being loud. It's about being deeply, quietly effective to a very high degree. And that idea leads us perfectly into this quote. I'm just going to read it and let's just let it sink in for a moment. The sky doesn't brab about being big. It just keeps making room for everything. So what on earth does that mean for us? It means true greatness isn't about taking up all the space or being the loudest person in the room. It's about being more like the sky. It's about quietly, eminently making room for other people, for new ideas, even for mistakes, for growth, for possibility. It's not about commanding attention. It's about empowering everything around you to flourish. And that brings us right back to where we started, back to that wall that you're building one choice at a time. So I'll just leave you with this final question. After all this, what's it going to be? What glowing brick, what single intentional choice are you going to place in your wall today?